I believe so, yes.
All right,
We are.
we are in session. Welcome to the January 10th, 2018 Board of Supervisors special meeting. Madam Clerk.
We have one closed session agenda item today. Item 1, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, one case pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2.
Is there any public comments before we go into closed session on this item?
Is there public comment after closed session?
Yes. This is just on the closed session item. If not, we'll go into closed session. You ready? All right. We're back. Madam Clerk?
Report of closed session. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, one case pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2. There's no reportable action taken thus far. However, this item will remain open until the end of today's meeting.
Thank you. Shall we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? And Mr. Fry, can you please lead us?
Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on. Announcements.
This is a time for board members and county staff to provide updates of upcoming county events that may be of interest to the public.
Any staff members? Any board members? If not, we'll move on to the next item. Madam Clerk.
Public comment. Any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on the consent or regular agendas may be addressed during the public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is completed before the 30-minute allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the next order of business. If public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued as the last item of business in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of comments to be heard.
Carl.
Shall I begin? Good morning. It's wonderful to see all you folks here. I see we have a shake-up here. Gary is now the chair, and Jack is the vice chair. You know, I have no say in how things work out when it comes to things like that. You know, I like both of you very much. I'll never forget the day Gary came knocking on my door down at La Contenta, and Gary's a great guy. And Jack, you know, I haven't talked to you in a long time in private, but you did call me one day. Thank you very much for that. Maybe the words of Subcomandante Marcos would be appropriate here. He was the Zapatista, he was the leader of the Mayan leader of the Zapatista Liberation Army in Mexico during the Chiapas revolt. And he said that there is a significant difference between the insignificant left and the significant right. And that is, they both do the same thing, but one tells you they don't. So when the public attacks either Jack or Gary, it's not appropriate in this venue. We're here to do business and not do politics. So I understand you have a meeting up in your district tomorrow, Supervisor Oliver, Michael. That's going to be with the Sheriff, Public Safety, and I understand there are two meetings coming up regarding La Contenta. The members are getting together. There's supposedly a buyer lined up for La Contenta. So stuff is going on in your district, and of course, I don't know what's going on in your district these days, but you have the calmest district and one of the best. And I hope that in Jack's district, I think you have something planned coming up, public safety as well with the sheriff, maybe, who knows? Oh, I have something for you. You might not want to take it, or you might want to take it, but I see you drinking out of that thermos. I brought my thermos today, and I have two of these stainless steel double-walled cups, and I'm always very concerned about people drinking out of plastic. I know one day I saw Julie over here, and she was drinking out of a clean canteen with a plastic top, and I was kind of worried about that. Would you like this? No? Okay. I have two, and I always need to because sometimes people sit down with me and we talk over tea. But very good. How long do I have? 25? I try to get all my time because I pay taxes, and it's just a matter of money, right? Right? Good to see you folks. Good to see. Oh, this is a special meeting today, and Peter thinks I'm special, so 6 seconds, 5 seconds, 4, 3, 2, 1. Buzzer. Good day.
Good morning, Bonnie Newman from Double Springs. I have some follow-up from yesterday. I have two definitions to share with you. One is public record, and if I'm wrong, Megan, let me know. It's that documented information which is legally available to anyone, often obtained over the internet. Civil cases are public record, like Zamora versus Clapp. Criminal cases are public record, felonies and misdemeanors, except when children are involved. Also, domestic violence restraining orders are public record. You know, like the two I helped women get against you, Mr. Clapp. Point of order. Not public record.
Hold on 1 second. Let her finish.
Not public record are unsubstantiated reports of abuse like Mr. Clapp made against me last night. I did have a complaint made against me about 10 years ago that was investigated and dropped. So I know where you got that information, Mr. Clapp. From some people or person that I had to turn in for failure to report welfare fraud. They were really pissed back then, and apparently they still are. I have never been charged with any type of abuse. So what Mr. Clyde did last night was slander. Slander, the second definition, the utterance of a false statement or statements in the presence of another person in attempt to damage a third person's character or reputation. It's an actionable offense in a court of law. If I knew a good attorney with integrity and I had a few bucks in my pocket, I'd sue you, Mr. Clapp, for slander. And as far as Mr. Fry goes, he can defend himself. But if you want to question a man's treatment of women, look in the mirror, Mr. Clapp, if you can stand what you see.
All right.
And I do intend to go to this hearing.
Hold on.
I do intend to go to this hearing on February 7th at 1:30 p.m. in Superior Court. Does anyone know a good attorney for me? Thank you.
Hey, there's no clapping in here. Thank you. Yes, your point of order.
I thought that the audience was not allowed to come up here and personally attack supervisors, and that's exactly what she did.
She had the right to read public records here, just like you have. If you want to come up and read public records, you have a right to read public records. If that's what she was doing, was reading public records.
Okay, thank you.
If you have anything you want to come up and read public records, then you can do so. Next.
Morning, Board. Mike Falvey, District 2. Congratulations, Gary, on your chairmanship, and Jack, vice chairmanship. And Mike, you did the best job you could, so I, for one, appreciate what you did. I wasn't going to speak again, but I heard what happened yesterday, and I try not to base my opinion on something happening where I'm not there. I don't like to take one person's word for it. So when someone told me what happened yesterday, I asked a couple other people who I'm not real good friends with, but I respect their opinion and their honesty. And I think travesty, disgrace, you name it. That's what I was told what happened yesterday by at least 3 different people. And I just saw it again happening. Gary, I would suggest you take the bull by the horns and run these meetings like they need to be run, and civility be demanded. Now, Michael used to, before the public comments, demand that the audience act civil towards each other and the board. Well, it's also, I think you should demand that the board act civil towards people. And I'll tell you one thing, if I'm here and I have stuff directed at me, like I heard was directed at citizens yesterday, supervisors yelling at the top of their voice at someone at the podium, I won't take it. I will not take it. And I don't think you should allow a board member to yell at individual citizens like I heard happened yesterday. And I'm not just, like I said, I went to multiple sources. So it's up to you, Gary. And apparently what happened yesterday, and again, what I saw a little bit of it this morning, it's not starting off real good as far on the civility aspect. So the board ought to act like adults and not scream at citizens.
Good morning. Dina Morris. Just wanted to say congratulations to Supervisor Toffanelli. And also, I did watch the board meeting yesterday. And more importantly than anything else, what I walked away with is that our sheriff's department is severely underpaid, and we're losing our staff. And that scares me extremely, because they're the very people I depend on to protect me and keep me safe. And if we keep losing those folks, this county is going to be in an even bigger mess than it already is. So I beg you to please do something to retain our sheriffs and our deputies. Thank you.
Happy New Year, everyone. I'm hoping that we'll have a very wonderful year and that we'll all get along and life will be perfect. But anyway, I would like to congratulate the chair. I know he's going to do a fabulous job, and I absolutely support you. Thank you all.
I'm a little pissed off at you people here for letting this thing happen. You should have said no years ago. My son's a teacher in Colorado Springs. 5 years ago, when he started teaching, they would take maybe 3 or 4 kids home a month. Now it's happening daily by the dozens. They're either coming to school stoned, or they're coming to school reeking of smell because they're growing in their house. Kids are complaining, hey, what's that smell around me?
Sir,
what's that smell around me? You know what? And
Sir,
this...
hold on a second. If you're talking about cannabis, you'll have to wait to public comment. That's on the next item. This is for things that aren't, this is for public comment for things that are not on the agenda.
Well, I'm here to bitch about that because, like I said, I got a couple more seconds, I'll walk out of here. But anyway, kids are going to school stoned in Colorado. They're getting, not on a weekly basis, daily. They're going home. There's people going and having accidents. First time they call them FTAs, first time accidents. They're going home, they're smoking for the first time and say, oh, I can go drive. Boom, they're killing each other there.
Thank you.
Pardon?
You'll have to bring it back when we open up for the next agenda item.
When's the next agenda?
It's next.
Pardon?
After public comments, we'll be opening that section of it, the cannabis section of this meeting, and your comments will be taken then.
Okay,
Right
well,
now,
I can't hear that well anyway, so
okay, so you'll
I've
have to
had my
wait.
ears
I'll let
operated. I
you,
have
I'll
8
tell you what, I'll let you know when you can come and speak
Good.
about cannabis. Thank you.
I just have a quick observation. My husband and I have not been at these meetings in some time. We've been kind of involved in what's going on in Angels Camp, and we had some other things to go. But this board has changed dramatically since the last time I was here. The only two people I recognize is Mr. Mills and Mr. Oliveira. And I have to say, I think the men have taken over. Ladies, we got to do something about that at the next election. And with that demonstration, I would like to know if you could tell me, Mr. Toffanelli, where it is in the rules, regulations, or otherwise that there is no ability to applaud at a county council meeting.
That's at the chair's discretion, and I'm trying to keep the level of noise down. You can do this, you can wave, you can do whatever, but the clapping and the noise level, trying to keep it down.
So I could quote you in the newspaper as saying that no applause will be allowed at a county council meeting as long as you are chair.
This is a county board supervisors meeting,
Pardon me,
not
Board of
council meeting.
Supervisors meeting, excuse me.
You can quote me if you like. Sure.
Well, personal opinion, I find that appalling.
Marty Crane, Valley Springs. And I remember when we all applauded for everything and then nothing, and this side applaud, that, and it didn't work that well. So this works very well, and everybody seems to like it. I'm sorry it doesn't work for you. But yes, I have to address the board. I just wanted to say that what was being talked about this morning already and what happened yesterday, as citizens, it is our responsibility, our duty, to hold our representatives accountable for their actions. So for us to not be permitted to come up and talk about things that happened in public or a public record, and I mean, I wouldn't want to come up here and talk about something horrendous and then have everybody wonder which one of you it is when it's only one. You know, that would not be fair to the rest of you. But it is our duty to hold our representatives accountable. And I appreciate the gentleman that came up and said, it goes both ways. That's been said before, but we have new members here, and maybe they didn't hear it before. Also, I wanted to say that in the last configuration of this board, there was a lot of wink and a nod stuff going on, and we all knew it. It was quite obvious, and so a lot of times we already knew how people were going to vote, and people called that what they wanted. But we have a new board now, and we hope that that wouldn't happen. And so I want to make sure that we guard against that. And another thing, yesterday, it was made abundantly clear that yes, we appreciate Gary, Supervisor Toffanelli, you're going to do a fabulous job as a chairperson. So would Supervisor Garamendi, who was in line for this position. In the last configuration of the board, they manipulated that process and pretty much stole that, that's how it was felt, stole that chairmanship from the vice chair. And that created what we now brought up yesterday as, and I know I'm not saying this all that well, but I think you'll get the point. It's been 9 years since District 2 was represented by a chairman on this board. 9 years, that's unconscionable. And now that you are chair, this takes us into the 4th year, where 3 of those years, District 1 will be representing as board chair. And I think that there's something wrong with that. And I was very disappointed that we didn't, and I think there's still time to reverse that, but one can hope. But I think you'll both do a fabulous job, but I just want to make sure that we don't manipulate the processes like we did before. That didn't work for us, and we were happy to get rid of that. Well, we thought we got rid of that. So anyway, go forth, be fabulous. Thank you.
Hi, Susan Morse, Angels Camp, District 2, 4. I didn't move, honest. Anyway, I'm in District 4. Anyway, this is mostly a point of information, and some of you may see when you're asking us to do this that I just get upset. I'm not sure if you understand that this sign language, and there's not just this, but there's several items, is part of the Occupy movement hand signals, which is part of the Occupy Wall Street protesters sign language. And I said, you can check it out on Wikipedia or anywhere in the internet. And we're not part of Occupy Wall Street protesters or any of those protesters who I think their conduct is objectionable. And I don't like this. We're Americans. We don't need to be doing sign language. Now, having said that, yes, we should be respectful to everyone, but the applause is an American, it's just something we've always done. And so I just wanted to bring to your attention that this is a Occupy Wall Street sign language. Many of us are not part of Occupy Wall Street. Thank you.
Good morning, Board. My name is Raymond Smith. I'm from Valley Springs. I'd like to bring something that's been on my mind for some time now. It's methamphetamine contamination. It's become aware to me that manufacturing presents a dangerous level of contamination, while the usage presents somewhat of a what some people think is a not so dangerous contamination. But what is a safe methamphetamine contaminated property? It really is interesting that AB 1078 actually was passed in 2005 to let counties clean up meth labs, but only laboratory activity. And I do think it is in your power to clean up usage activity as well. If there is a rental that changes hands to a tenant, if there's a laboratory, it's actually mandated that landlord discloses that. There are simple meth tests now, just swabs that landlords use to detect usage in homes. And these tests could be used to bring even somewhat what some people think is a safe contaminated property. I really question that. When we're thinking about our children who may have levels in their bodies of methamphetamine equivalent to an adult user, these are children, and we should really be thinking about them and doing right by them, especially considering when properties are being sold and bought, being changed hands, not just with rentals, but across the board. This is a very important issue, I think, as well with senior citizens who use a lot more medicine and medications than the rest of our population. They tend to have a lot more fragile immune systems and just general physical states. And these properties, whether or not they're being changed hands, they may lead to having to be remediated. They may have to be demolished in some cases. But the impact that these have on the health and safety of the individuals is paramount. Not just that, but if they get these properties without them being tested properly, they have to pay for the remediation themselves. They bear the complete burden of the health burden and the physical or the financial burden as well. So I think we may be able to do something when we come in contact, when the Sheriff's Department comes in contact with methamphetamine property. It's been in the news lately that there has been some dealers that have been found. There may be.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Good morning. Happy Wednesday. I just want to say, Michael, thank you. You did an excellent job as chair. And it's just, you don't hear enough thanks for people doing good jobs anymore. So, Michael, again, thank you. And I know we're not supposed to clap, but this really kind of deserves one. So, thank you. Gary, I'm sure you're going to do a great job too. It's not going to be easy, but I know you can do it.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you all for serving.
It seems to me that there's a whole lot of nitpicking going on since the changing of the guards. And I'm really sad about that because I think it shows poor sportsmanship. I'm going to have to eat some stuff after this meeting, and I'm not going to like it. But I'm going to try to be a good sport.
Good morning, everyone. Dr. Prapana Smith, District 3. I think we found some common ground here today because in a few minutes, two people, they're going to be arguing for two different provisions. We are in agreement. Yesterday, I want to commend the sheriff yesterday for his comments. $23 an hour to patrol the streets in any place in this country, that's not enough. It's not good enough. My own landlord, where my current business is located, informed me, his name is Mr. Matthew Greenberg, he's written to all of you. He pays his guys $25 an hour to whack weeds. Weed whackers make more than our sheriffs. That's not a good situation, guys. I agree. Thank you, Deanna, for bringing that up today. I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Good morning, Chair Toffanelli and the members of the Board of Supervisors. I am George Fry. I was slandered yesterday afternoon, but I'm not going to do anything about it. You just have to consider the source. It's really a sad day. I want to compliment once again Jack Garamendi for maintaining his cool in such a travesty that happened yesterday. I already thanked Michael for his year as the chair by giving him my flag with the word veteran underneath of it that I've been wearing for years. I gave it to him yesterday afternoon in a thank you for his diligence and ability to show governance on this Board of Supervisors. I too am sad listening to the letter that the sheriff read yesterday. It's unconscionable. Just unconscionable. I spent 20 years in law enforcement, and even when I started out, I didn't start out at $23 an hour. You're going to continue to have people leaving this county because they need to feed their families. They need to pay insurance. Insurance is skyrocketing. The only place is in our Congress and Senate. If they don't get reelected, to get $174,000 a year until they die. And they get the best medical coverage that money can buy. And they don't give a damn about any of their constituents in terms of medical insurance. And it saddens me to see that kind of stuff going on. I'm glad that Mr. Clapp spoke up and said that he can't work with Bonnie and I on the In-Home Services Committee. If he can't work with us, we don't need him. We can survive without his presence Yesterday, to me, I've been coming to these meetings for years and years and years, and yesterday, to me, was the biggest travesty. I have never seen anything like this.
Okay, we have time for one more speaker, and then we hit the 30-minute limit. We'll carry after today's agenda back to public comments. That's it.
Good morning. Vicki Reinke, Angels Camp. I couldn't help but have to also respond to what the sheriff said yesterday, because it is an eye-opener. I think we've all known this for a long time in our county, that our sheriffs are underpaid. I happen to have a son who's in law enforcement, and he's in Sonoma County, and they never get paid enough. That's the truth. But $23 an hour is a travesty. But what I hear is somehow, I know this is going to come up today, so I'm just going to make the comment, and it may come up again later, but that somehow we need marijuana money to pay for law enforcement. My opinion, that's why law enforcement is overworked right now. They are trying their best to eradicate the marijuana that's here supposedly illegally. Anyway, I'll get into that when we're in that subject. But the people of Calaveras County, we pay our taxes, and I've said this before, we pay our taxes because we want our government to make us safe. The number one priority for taxpayers is law enforcement. And when we keep hearing how we underpay our law enforcement and overwork them, we don't like that. And you know what? If it comes down to it, if we can really believe what our government is telling us about our finances, I really believe that the people of Calaveras County would come and stand up and try to find a way to pay our law enforcement more in salary. And if we were to not overburden them with extra work, then it would make that even easier. So anyway, that's just my opinion. I hear it coming down the road that somehow we're going to have marijuana to pay for law enforcement, and I tell you, you're wrong. Thank you.
All right. Move on to the next agenda item. Madam Clerk.
Item 2 is from the Planning Department to conduct a public hearing to adopt an ordinance rescinding Chapter 17.95 and replacing it with a new Chapter 17.95 banning or regulating cannabis cultivation and related commercial activities, certify the environmental impact report, and adopt findings of fact, adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting plan, or find that adoption of the ordinance is exempt from CEQA pursuant to Section 26055H of the Business and Professions Code.
Mr. Maurer.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Peter Maurer, Planning Director. Based on the direction from the board on December 21st, we have returned with two draft ordinances, a regulatory ordinance that included all of the directions based on a series of polls of the board, as well as the errata that we had presented to the board on the 21st, as well as a ban. There's really not a whole lot for me to add at this point in time, other than just sort of procedurally, should you choose to adopt the regulatory ordinance, you would need to certify the EIR, adopt the findings of fact supporting the EIR, adopt the ordinance, which includes some errata, which I'll go over in a moment, and adopt the mitigation monitoring reporting plan. Should you choose to adopt the ban, the same three steps would be necessary, but because there are no mitigation measures associated with the ban, no MMRP would be required. In your packet, we have provided the regulatory ordinance, that sort of the final version, one that shows the changes that were made from the prior hearing with underline and strikeout, a clean version of the ban ordinance, underline and strikeout version of the ban ordinance, an errata sheet that has just a couple of minor changes to it, one major change and a couple minor changes, The findings of fact for the regulatory ordinance, the finding of fact for the ban ordinance, and the MMRP. The MMRP and the errata were passed out today. There are also copies I left up here on the podium for the public to review. Those are drafted at the last minute because that was sort of the last thing we needed to do. So with the errata, under the findings of both draft ordinances, we have modified sections C and D related to recent changes in federal policy that were just enacted last week. The more significant change was an oversight on our part in the regulatory ordinance 1795-070E2. We inadvertently left out the maximum cap of 44,000 square feet where you have multiple growers on a single parcel. So that has been added. And also the CEQA findings, section 4, was inadvertently left out in the draft that was distributed to you earlier, so that would also need to be added. I know that Julie Moss-Lewis from County Counsel's Office has done a last-minute review, line-by-line review, and she has a couple more, several more minor clerical errors. I think that rather than go through those right now, I would recommend that you go through the public hearing process, whatever discussion, deliberation you want to do, and then at this time that you decide which version it is that you choose to adopt, if you so do so, then if it's the regulatory ordinance, we would quickly just sort of go through those edits to make sure that those are incorporated into the ordinance, if that's the version that is chosen to be adopted. With that, I will turn it over to you unless you have any further questions.
Is Julie having anything to add?
I'm sorry.
Do you have anything to add to what Peter?
No, I mean, it was clerical errors across the board. I don't think there would be any controversy. It was things that were intended to be there that need to be fixed up. And we could go through them just to make sure that the board's on the same page. But if the board wants to do that now, we can do it now, or we can wait until after. It would probably be more efficient to wait to see which direction the board wants to go in, because the changes were to the regulatory ordinance.
Okay. All right. Okay. So with that, we'll open it up for discussion at the board. Does any member have anything they'd like to discuss, bring up? No? We go to public comment? We'll go to public comment. Before we go to public comment, Madam Clerk, do you need to take a break at 10? Yes, you do. Okay, in order to meet the federal and state employment guidelines, we need to take a break, at least a 15-minute break at 10 o'clock. So we'll hear a couple speakers.
Oh, so I have 7 minutes?
You want to take it now?
Yeah,
okay,
let's
we'll
take it
take it
now.
now, and then we'll come into public comment.
Yeah, I have time.
All right, we're back in session, and public comments.
Shall I begin? Good. I was here for the beginning of the beginning, and thought it was appropriate that I'd be here for what perhaps is the beginning of the end. I've had no good experiences with marijuana, other than I've made a lot of friends that are marijuana growers. And I've defended them when the county has tried to roll over them, many times just because they're beautiful. If they're good looking, I'm all there for them. But there comes a time when changes have to be made, when the community has spoken again and again, when the majority of your citizens, Megan, I'm speaking right now if you don't mind, when the majority of your citizens have told you what they wanted. And no matter how much I tend to favor the minority, no matter how much I try to protect people from the ravages of the majority, from the mob mentality, sometimes it's not a mob mentality. Sometimes it's a situation where you've had an invasion. You become engaged in a cultural war, and that cultural war is dirty. That cultural war knows no bounds, and you have to go beyond that and make a logical decision based on what the people want, and not necessarily what's going to give pay raises to certain departments, to not necessarily what is going to grow government, because you're not here. You're not a government employee. None of you work for the government. I know it's pretty fabulous when you get that first paycheck and you get indoctrinated into believing that you have, such as the closed session items, that you're going to have information that the public's not going to have, and there's a tendency to actually become to enter into that thought process that you are a government employee. You're not. You're an employee of these people. You're an employee of me. I get involved in these things and try to make sure that things run smoothly. Things didn't run smoothly, and we're here today again. It's okay. Don't worry. There are reasons why we hold things off. I appreciate that. I appreciate each one of you, but you're going to have to make a decision today that may not be popular with some. Thank you.
Stand right here. I've been, first of all, Happy New Year, and it's been nice watching you guys over a long period of time. I'm a longtime landowner here. My name is Bob Hoffman, and I own 15 acres up above Mountain Ranch, and I really love this area. I love the history. I love the beauty. I love the people, and that's why I bought the property. I do have a winery called Mountain Ranch Winery because I love the area, and I wanted to develop my property. I do have some other places in Carlsbad and in Lodi, but I want to be here. And when the laws changed, I wanted to get involved in the medical and recreational cannabis business to go along with my wine business. After the Butte fires, which my property burned up like everybody else's, I applied for an emergency grower's permit. I was told that I had to prove that I had been growing illegally with pictures, receipts, etc. in order to pay the $5,000 for the emergency permit. Because I obey the law, I, of course, could not provide evidence that I had committed a felony. I had a hard time believing this was the case. So I waited until last December when the state was ready to issue applications for commercial growers permits and called the county to ask how I could obtain a grower's permit from them to finish my state application. I was told permits were only being given to those that had the original emergency permits issued after the Butte fire. A permit I could not get because I did not break the law. It's hard for me to believe that I was not being allowed to do something legally because I did not do something illegally. People have been growing illegally in this county and many other counties for years, and I had not condoned that. The cost of this, I would say, must be huge, but I know it's a huge drain on the county's budget, law enforcement time, and a negative impact on the environment due to unlawful and unregulated growing. By allowing myself and others to legally get a permit to be regulated, you would have the revenue to stop those that do not want to obey the law, adversely affect the environment. In many cases, these same people are committing other crimes as well. In closing, I deeply care about the environment. I deeply care about this area. I just love the beauty, and I welcome regulation. Please consider my request to allow myself and others to be able to do something legally here in the county and to help do the right thing and stop the people that are doing the wrong things. Thank you very much.
Good morning, gentlemen. My name is Lori White. I live in Angels Camp. And I think that I have been so involved in what's been going on in Angels Camp and banning of marijuana within the city limits that I have shirked my duty in looking to see what the County Board of Supervisors is doing with this marijuana issue. And then I learned that you guys seem to be embracing marijuana. I spent many years in law enforcement as a deputy sheriff in San Joaquin County and in Calaveras County. And I can assure you, back during those periods of time, the possession and smoking of marijuana was very harmful. That's why it was against the law. That's why they brought people to the jail. Because possession of marijuana isn't a harmless drug. It is a drug that is very, very potent. There still is not a viable way of testing people for having consumed marijuana. And until we have a breath test, we're not going to be able to tell if people are out driving on our streets under the influence of marijuana. And if you haven't seen somebody who has consumed marijuana and is driving a vehicle, you need to do that before you start making decisions on what's good. I believe that what we are doing today, now, please don't get me wrong, back then, marijuana, possession of less than an ounce of marijuana was a felony. Do I believe it should be a felony? No. I don't believe that it should be an infraction either. And I believe that if we allow people to grow marijuana in this county, why are we doing that? We're doing it because of the almighty buck. We want to be able to tax it. That's what everybody said. Well, let's not have, why don't we have prostitution? We can tax that too. They tax it in Nevada. So if you're going to allow marijuana in here just because you want to tax it and get some money, well, then we better start thinking about some other things that you can allow in Calaveras County because of the almighty buck. You don't understand when you are failing to ban marijuana what it's going to do to this county. I pick up from things that the sheriff's office reports. Third indoor marijuana grow seized in Valley Spring. Now, they're supposed to have 6 plants in a house. This one happened to have 282,
Ma'am, thank you.
200
Time's up.
pounds. Think about it, please.
Back again. Right now, I'm pissed off at you guys, not the crowd over here. I'm pissed off at you guys. You should have let this thing go and go and go. You should have said years ago, no and stay no. Some of you probably have property that you're leasing out to a grower. Let's put it this way. I've already turned in 2 grows, illegal grows in my, within 200 yards of my property over there. And they weren't what you call local people. These were, I like to use the word, but I'm told, use the word Orientals, and you know who I'm talking about. If I say the other word, it's considered a hate crime now. They could take my guns away if I had any or anything after that. But you guys ought to move to Colorado Springs for about a week and watch the TVs, listen to the radio, and and read the newspapers there. All you see is the big word FTA, first time accident. These people go and buy a little bag of pot, they smoke it, they start driving. They don't know what it does to them. And next thing you know it, they're killing each other over there. When you guys start getting this money from the revenue or whatever you guys are going to be collecting, what you need to do is build a bigger hospital and maybe a couple of wrecking yards out here so you can start packing all the cars and start getting wrecking here. So the first person that gets killed in this county is going to be on you guys right now. It's going to be blood on your hands. Right now, California is allowing pot here. So right now, it's going to be blood on Jerry Brown's hands. You have how do you say it? You have a political party in this state here is running it down the drain. You're letting illegals come in here and staying in here. You're letting pot grow through this whole state here. This state has become a dump now. I talked to people that I went back to Alabama here last summer to participate in the Senior Olympic Games. When I was going all the way back there, I would see cars full of furniture. I didn't think they were going camping. I would ask them, I see the plates. Where are you guys going? We're moving out of California. They're moving out of California because of these laws that this state creates. You can't do a damn thing in the state without I can walk out that door right now and break maybe 3 or 4 crimes, not knowing what I'm doing. So like I said, when this stuff starts happening here and people start dying, it's going to be on your hands. And all you guys think about is the money that you guys are going to be collecting. Where's that money going to go? I don't know. But basically, I'm going to have to say something. You're an officer. He's going to probably get a little pay raise on his pay. And you guys are probably going to be making a little money off the side over there. So that's what I got to say right now. So if anybody dies in the state, it's going to be on your hands. Just remember that.
Good morning, Board. My name is Raymond Smith from Valley Springs. Personally, me, my family, if we cannot cultivate cannabis, we wholly rely on small business farms like the ones in this county. I believe that every one of them deserves a shot at the licenses that they have earned. A good amount of them already have their licenses, and without them, as I said, without the cultivation personally, me, my family, I'm really not sure what would become of us. Reasonable regulations codified by the state legislature already authorize cultivation for us. That has been outlined in the Attorney General's guidelines that are now a decade old, but they're still enforced and I believe valid. They're not binding, but they're still valid and enforceable for law enforcement, and that's why I follow it, because they're also for patients. Kirby versus Fresno held that state law preempted the county's attempt to criminalize cultivation of medical marijuana, and the trial court erred in upholding the criminalization provisions of the county's ordinance. Given the trial court's error as to the limited issue, the court reversed the trial court's dismissal of the action. Local ordinance do not preempt medical immunity. 11362.765. Subject to the requirements of this article, individuals specified in subdivision B shall not be subject on the sole basis of criminal liability under several sections of the state law. 1795.050A of the regulation ordinance, which I wholly support on behalf of my family and the patients that I know. The non-commercial cultivation of medical cannabis by persons aged 18 years or older, that is basically a prohibition on kids who need cannabis and anyone under 18 who has a kid, who has a child who needs cannabis. Whether you're a caregiver who's over 18, the definition of a caregiver under state law actually has an exemption for those who are under 18 to have safe access to cannabis. And regulations under the state actually said that they cannot buy cannabis at dispensaries. They cannot have access at dispensaries if they're under 18. If they have a child, if they are under 18 and they have a kid, they cannot get medicine for their kid. Under our ordinance, we're saying that they can't even cultivate that medicine either. What is to become of them? In addition to the actual abatement and or administrative costs in the county, enforcing this chapter, any person who has been issued a notice of abatement can be subject to a $1,000 a day fine. That's egregious. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name's Sam. I am a recent graduate from UC San Diego. I graduated from Calaveras County, went all 4 years there, and a lot of people have been making comments about how dangerous and maybe potent marijuana can be. I smoked marijuana every day, went to class, passed, got a degree from UC San Diego in neuroscience, and I don't know, it just seems really ridiculous that people are trying to make marijuana seem like a horrible drug that has negative impacts when I can go buy a bottle of like vodka from the store. I mean, people think that growing marijuana is going to lead to more car wrecks, but I don't see how that's going to happen, because you could go out and drink and drive anytime you want, right? So the accessibility of marijuana shouldn't be thought of as making people want to operate automobiles. And today you guys are discussing on whether to regulate or to ban the marijuana in this county. And honestly, the regulation just seems ridiculous to me because it's already regulated. You guys already heavily regulated it. The processes these people had to go through to get their licenses are absolutely already pretty stringent, and it seems like the regulation is a ban in disguise, as I've heard one of you say before, and that makes sense because it seems like you're just trying to ban. Of course, the whole county. Well, it seems like they want to ban marijuana. It seems like the general consensus is people don't want marijuana cultivation here. And the regulation just seems like a way to do that, but to still get money and be able to fund yourselves, I guess, because maybe you're scared that there might be lawsuits if you do ban it. So it seems like the regulation is just a way to get around money. It seems like you guys just need money, and it just seems ridiculous. If you think it should be banned, it should be banned. If you think it should be regulated, it's already regulated. I mean, the number of growers that applied originally 2 years ago was like 400. That number has quickly dropped to under 200. In another 2 years, there'd probably be only 100 growers growing here legally anyways. But you guys feel the need to regulate it more and tell people who already went through the process that that they can't operate their legally operated farms anymore is just ridiculous because they already went through a lot of time and process to get their licenses. And I'm sure if you regulate it, all the people who aren't allowed to grow, like under the new regulations, will still have the ability to file lawsuits and sue the county over a bait and switch, since people poured their money in and time and invested in an opportunity which the county wants to not allow people to continue. Thank you.
I'm just looking for the password is all.
Thank you for your silence. I'm Tom Tryon from District 4.
The chair recognizes former Supervisor Tom Tryon.
Will you start the clock over, please? I wish to bring a couple things to your attention. Number one, it was my understanding at the last meeting the board had on cannabis that the board had given direction that the size of a parcel that's under an ag preserve contract would be the size of the ag preserve that's under the contract, and not a bunch of the little assessor parcel numbers that are scattered throughout the larger ag preserve contract. So I'm asking for some clarification on that. Secondly, in the ordinance, you state that if you have an ag preserve contract, you can only have one registered parcel on it. Later in the ordinance, you say that if you have if you have room for two, if it's over 200 acres, then you can have two registered grows if it's zoned A1 or GF. But you can only have one if it's a ag preserve contract. And I would ask that you not do that, that you shouldn't be penalized for having an ag preserve contract. If anything, you should receive a bonus. But to be penalized to me is just grossly unfair because it's an ag preserve contract. Secondly, I think you're going overboard on the carbon offset stuff. There's no reason I agree that you shouldn't have gas or diesel generators, et cetera, that'll be electricity. But I think it's up to the grower to economically decide what form of energy he wants to use and not be placing carbon offsets for a half-acre cannabis grow, cannabis farm. That makes no sense at all to me. And you have a lot of other regulations, environmental regulations in the proposed ordinance, and I would caution you about that because this ordinance is a model, it's a footprint for the rest of agriculture in Calaveras County. And you're coming up on a general plan, and you're going to have an agricultural element, I suspect, in that general plan. And the environmentalists are going to use this to say, we want all these rules and regulations, we want water tests, we want soil tests, we want carbon offsets, we want all this in agriculture in Calaveras County. You can't just isolate a cannabis farm and say that we're going to treat this different than we treat all other agriculture in Calaveras County. The environmentalists are going to come after you with the format you've given them.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
And we'll answer all the questions after public comment, so we can go through them.
David White from Angels Camp. I'm going to pick up two subjects. One that was brought up earlier on general comment, and the one that's running now. And by the way, just in these 3 sheriff's visits, there are 4,100 illegal plants being grown as we speak, and the sheriff has been able to get rid of them. And thank God for that. That's just 3 visits. We need to understand that when we underpay our sheriff's department, it's not just making it difficult for them to live here and pay our taxes and have families here. We're also putting their lives at risk, because whether you like it or not, cannabis is going to bring crime. And let me give you some information that was put out at the city meeting in Angels Camp by the police chief. He said, Colorado is ruining the day of what was going on. 156 counties in Colorado, most of them are trying to find out how to reverse their stupid decision, as in their words, to grow marijuana. They've got more crime than they know what to do with. And it'll be the same here. We're a small community. So let me tell you, you have marijuana, you're going to have more crime. If you have more crime, you're going to have to pay these guys more money, because you're going to have more police officers, and we're trying to deal with this as a problem in Angels Camp, because we've got a police chief, we've got a police department, and also in Calaveras County. I mean, it's okay for people to talk about let's have a farm, let's regulate where it's going to be. You can't regulate marijuana. You can't get it now. And you're going to have more sheriff's deputies, and you're going to have to pay them more money. And I'll pick up something that somebody else said, because I think it's really pertinent. Recently, there was a 2-county raid on a building not far from here, and they had a SWAT team out as well. They were there for hours before they managed to get people out of the building. I'm going to say to you, gentlemen, the same as somebody else said. Which one of you is going to be the supervisor that has to go to the home of that cop that gets shot by these bums that come in from out of state to grow marijuana here because we're an easy push? Which one of you is going to be the one that has to go and see the mother or the sister or whoever it is and tell them, but we did a raid last night and your son, your husband got shot? I want to know which one of you wants to put your hand up now. You're going to do it, and you're going to be happy to do it, Michael, yeah? Won't be the first time, sir.
I'm sorry?
Will not be the first time.
It doesn't matter. My wife wouldn't be the first time
Thank
either.
you. Thank you.
I apologize about that. It's just, I was. I'm glad I got smiles up there. Thank you very much, except for one, a scowl. Only one thing I want to point out. I've talked a couple times in these meetings over the last 2 years, and I understand that we're going to come to a decision, basically what people say today. But I want one thing to be pointed out. We've kicked this count down the road 2 years, and that's too long. And now we are forced to make a decision based upon time. And that's not totally fair for all parties, both this side and that side, okay?
What I'm talking about is, did anybody think about the amount of properties that are actually available to us so that we can sell our property and then go buy a property to be able to go ahead and do a cannabis commercial cultivation? I checked, there's 14 properties available online right now, okay? And for how many people do we have registered as legal growers to go out and fight for those properties? And a lot of us are small family farms that use this money to either, that is their income, or that supplements their income. We're looking at making a county that was on the fringe of being a poor county to a poorer county. I'm not talking about taxes coming into you. I'm talking about the funds that are going to be spent within the county, because we make our money here legally with the 200 plus growers that are legally licensed to be able to commercially grow, okay? We spend money at Senders. We spend money at the grocery store. We spend money at the laundry store. We spend money at different places within this county, and we pay our taxes in this county. But if they're not making the money on those small little farms that you're telling they cannot grow in certain areas because it is not available to them, because you have basically corralled them into these little areas. And thank you, Jack, for making eye contact. Everybody else has not made eye contact with me, but thank you. You're forcing these small farms into little areas that are not available or priced out to where they can't do it. Now, what happens to their income? Okay? Did you guys have property available when you decided to make where the fund or where the properties are available? I recommend that you relook at that zoning, make it acreage, and then make it district to where the districts that have the most farms, sorry Jack, but we are over there, make it district. Make the districts come to a vote and say, hey, yes, we're allowing this in this district. And the other districts that don't want it, hey, then vote it, like Angels Camp, okay? Dennis, Angels Camp is a non-growing city.
Thank you, sir.
You guys can do that, okay? Stop kicking the can.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning. My name is Glenn Malliette. I'm a resident of District 2. I've lived there all my life. I've seen the changes that have gone through the county. We've always had marijuana here. The problem has come with this permissive attitude that was developed, where we were identified as a site that everyone could come and grow freely. That's where the problem comes, not from the act of growing marijuana. I'd like to read to you my letter I submitted on the 27th to the Board of Supervisors. Honorable gentlemen, thank you all for your demonstrated commitment to public service and the best interest of all the people of Calaveras County, my home since the early 1970s. I respectfully ask your time and attention in consideration of the following comments for public record about your pending decisions regarding commercial cannabis regulation or prohibition, an issue with profound and complex long-term implications to you, to the county, and your constituents. As I said, I'm a resident of District 2, a 1978 Calaveras High School honor graduate. I have a degree in environmental resources engineering and work experience related to water quality control, including work with the Army Corps of Engineers, Water Quality Control Board, County of Calaveras, where I acted regulating septic systems. We had a lot of problems with septics that were allowed that didn't function right. And also have experience in an analytical testing lab. So I'm familiar with the chemical aspects of materials. I have decades of amateur outdoor organic gardening experience. I've lived in my current home for 25 years. I'm a respectable, tax-paying, peace-loving, good guy, here for the long run, through good, bad, and ugly. Your efforts to protect public safety, prevent public nuisance, and prohibit environmental degradation associated with the irresponsible cultivation is commendable. But don't try to take people and say just because you have less than 100 acres, you're a threat. I would like these decisions to be made on merit, individual merit of each property. Am I creating a problem or am I not? That should be the question, not whether or not I am doing something that people don't like. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you.
What would you think if I sang out of tune? Would you stand up and walk out on me? Lend me your ears and I'll sing you a song, and I'll try not to sing out of key. Oh, I get by with a little help from my weed. I get high with a little help from my weed. I'm gonna try to get a little help from my County District Board of Supervisors.
Now that I have your attention, I'm certain that I'm not alone in saying that I'm tired of this. I'm tired of trying to run a business while the county keeps waffling about whether or not to ban said business. Sorry, but your time to waffle is over. Weed is recreationally legal in this state, and it's legal in some form in over half the states in this country. We have collectively given you millions of dollars. Are you going to give that back if you ban? From all accounts I've heard, you'll have to. And wait, I feel like I've said all this before. Oh, wait, I have. So all ban talk aside, because honestly, I think if you were going to ban, you'd have done it months ago. If it's a reconciliation between those ardently against weed and growers that you desire, might I suggest an alternative approach? Mediation? I think an open discussion between representatives of the cannabis community and our neighbors and the board and any other stakeholders might help. We can get through this finger pointing and name calling that's been going on for months now, and have some productive discussion, as well as providing the board with invaluable information on how to regulate most effectively in the best interest of all. Perhaps this could even be a process of crafting a regulation. I'm sure it isn't easy after all. It may take time, but I think it would be worth it. So, to conclude, do you need any money? 'Cause we've got some money for you. Could it be any money? 'Cause we've been paying our dues. We get by with a little help from our weed. We get high with a little help from our weed. Oh, I'm gonna try to keep growing my weed. Thanks very much.
How do you top that? Yeah. We're in agreement on a whole lot of things when it comes to the cannabis issues, getting it out of residential neighborhoods, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're not in agreement on the way this is going here today. You can ban it. Hopefully you don't. You can regulate it, but what you're doing really isn't regulating. What you're doing is putting 100% of the mom and pop operations out of business. What you're doing with your regulations is you're going to cause a few thousand people to be unemployed. Cannabis, the movement, the whole thing going all the way back is not about big business, it's about mom and pop. It's about individual rights that you're stepping on. The urgency ordinance, I know a lot of people hate that, don't bring it up again, but it was really a good piece of work. All it took was a few changes for it to work better. You're taking it to extremes, and as a result, you're really going to hurt a lot of people. And what I'm seeing is that that's okay. Oh, I forgot, I'm Bob Bowerman, District 5, been here 17 years. This is my forever home. Right now, I'm really, really ashamed of our county and the direction we're going, because we're going to hurt a whole lot of people, and you don't have to. It's being done on egos, and that's kind of the way it's coming down. Your egos are refusing to compromise, and that's wrong. What you're about to do is called bait and switch, and there's no other way of describing that. Bait and switch is not okay on anybody for any reason. Bait and switch from our county is flat out wrong. You're going to hurt a lot of people.
Thank you, Bob. Sir, you're up.
Thank you. I really came here today with absolutely no intention of speaking. Let me give you a little background about myself. I've lived here before the fire. I've been doing this before the fire. I've had an actual business since well before that. Since 2012 is when I actually started my business, way before you guys ever recommended it or required it. One of the things that happened to me is I was one of the first, along with a few other in this room, to actually be approved. Courtney Meinhardt, your co-compliance officer, came and passed me with flying colors. He left my property saying this is a place that we rarely see, a place that doesn't have trash everywhere, a place that actually is run by a small family, a place that is right. We've paid our taxes, we've paid our dues, we've done everything right along the way. We've bent over backwards to do these things because this is my home. I went in and I was told by the planning department that, oh, I can't re-register and I can't do anything like that for the moment because of everything that's going on with the ban. Well, I tried to go in and renew, and they told me that it's sealed and done now. I can't even re-register myself. Now, I was one of the first ones. I wasn't even going to speak, like I said, but I heard somebody put a little sly comment out as the lady with the guitar left, and it was move to Colorado. Here's what is being done, and here's what you're doing. You're backing us into a corner. You're either going to have the people like me who have come to the plate and batted for this county over and over again, paid all of our dues, and you're either going to turn us away and you're going to tell us we need to sell our homes, we need to move our families, we need to uproot. I know I look young to you, especially all, no offense, but I'm the leader of my family. I'm the man of the house. I take care of my dad who has cancer. I take care of a lot of things, okay? It's what we do. That's what this community is built upon. That's why I moved here all that time ago, okay? But by telling us we can't re-register, by telling us we can't continue on after we've done what is right, you're either going to force us out or you're going to tell us that we have to do things illegally, and we all know what that's going to cause. You're going to have people that leave. You're going to set the property values down even further. You're going to have people doing things illegally, and because of all this, you're going to invite the things that we have fought so hard over the last 2 years to get the hell out of here, and that is the illegals. You're going to draw in more people who, excuse my language, just don't give a shit, and that's not us. I don't need to come up with a guitar. I don't need to put any sly comments about Colorado. I don't need to do any of those things. What I need to tell you is you need to allow us to re-register. You need to be fair about it, and you need to take each case specifically, and I know that's hard, but when you have a good place that pays their dues and is right, isn't that what you want to keep here? That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Good morning, Board. My name is Brian Miller. I am from Railroad Flat. I'm a 37-year resident in this county. We were one of the first farms approved as well. We live in Railroad Flat on 4.5 acres with a 10,000 square foot grow. Your new ordinance of 100-acre minimum, I believe, is financial discrimination. All the smaller farms, mom and pops, we cannot afford 100 acres. If you pass that ordinance today, what is 100 acres going to cost me tomorrow? What about the 200 farms you approved already? They're all the hoops that we jumped through the county, through inspectors, through soil testing, and then you're going to make us move or make us shut down. I cannot afford 100 acres tomorrow, but what I can afford is a big-time attorney that will sue this county if you don't do this right, and include all of us. Thank you very much.
Proponent Randall Smith, District 3. I just handed you a piece of paper. I emailed it also, but I just want to read it into the record. On the current draft ordinance, regulation ordinance, there's a couple of provisions I have a little concern about that affect indoor. 17.95070F6. This provision feels like a solution looking for a problem. The state has mandated testing of all produce, and any test that fails the product will not go to market. Forcing indoor growers to retain for water retention and storing old water imposes an undue and unwarranted hardship upon these businesses. If you want to test the water, test it while it's being used, okay? All you will find is stuff that makes green things grow. Then I found an internal inconsistency in the ordinance. I think you guys really need to address this. 17.95070A5 says there should be no form of signage on the parcel suggesting the presence of cannabis. Then, in the same provision F8, you require that we advertise to the whole world that we're burning sulfur or running CO2, which would obviously indicate the presence of cannabis. So you can't, one of those provisions have got to go. They're just internally inconsistent. Now, as to the bigger picture, I just want to say something. Look, every argument we've ever heard from people advocating for a ban is an advocation for regulations. Every concern that they have shared can be addressed, is being addressed in these regulations. Now, I believe that you are real close to a deal. You're there. You're right there. And I think it comes down primarily to that 100-acre minimum. If you guys could find a way to come down on that a little bit, I think you have something that can stand up. Gary, you said from the beginning, no RR, no residential. That's in there. That's a done deal. Nobody's arguing against that. That's been the big compromise from the industry side, major compromise. Get it out of RR, get it under control, tax it, pay the sheriff, pay the county staff. Let me put it this way. Calaveras County, you're the 4th poorest jurisdiction in the 6th largest economic engine on the planet. What is your excuse? Why are you dirt poor? It's because of policies in this county. You have an opportunity, and yes, money matters. People that say that, oh, you're doing it for the money, that's not a good argument in a capitalistic society where money drives everything. You can't pay the sheriff without money. You can't pay the staff without money. Thank you.
I am not for the drugging up of America or Calaveras County or California. I believe that we are meant to be examples to the world because we are a leader of the world. A leader is a role model. We are important. Regulation will not work because it has not worked. There are illegal grows all over this county. Because of pot growers, we are losing our rights. The direct results of pot is terrorism. Medical marijuana is a joke. It is the gateway drug to opiate addiction. Nurses in hospitals can legally use doctors' prescriptions to sedate patients. This sedation is the byproduct of opiate addiction. MRIs show that marijuana has caused brain damage. The electorate of the county changed the supervisors. The public wanted a change away from marijuana. The former supervisor who just spoke mentioned different problems with regulation, so ban it. 1,000 permitted workers and their families have hiked prices up across the board for all, including those who do not have a marijuana business, to meet their bottom line. There's a housing shortage in Calaveras County and in California because of this. Deputies, once willing to work here at less money because they could afford to do so, can no longer. I hope that you will ban it. Thank you.
Morning, gentlemen. Mark Bolger, Rimrock Farms. Couple issues to bring up is 1795060B4 states that a copy of the notice of applicability with the Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control, well, it says district, it should be board, but whatever. It says that also it would require the resulting permit. The notice of applicability is the resulting permit. The notice of intent is the initial application. With the notice of intent, you have to have the biological site assessment done, the cultural resources inventory. So all of the regulatory compliance is achieved with that initial attempt. Every single farmer who's gone through the permitting process has that notice of applicability, but many of them are going to have it at their current property that no longer meets the zoning requirements. So I would suggest you guys reconsider that. The State Water Board is going to be inundated with applications from across the state. We don't know how long this is going to take. Again, these are people that have achieved that notice of applicability at their former site, and all the regulatory concerns are taken care of with that notice of intent. Secondly, 1795070E1 is the requirement of the 100-acre minimum. I personally feel that's a little burdensome. If you can achieve the 500-foot setbacks and all the other requirements and proper zoning, it seems to me that the 100-acre minimum is unnecessary. If you are going to stick with that, I would hope you would consider ownership of contiguous parcels that has the appropriate zoning to be conjoined to allow the 100 acres. The boundary line adjustment process can take quite a long time. If the goal is to achieve revenue from these farms, but we're waiting 2 years to get a boundary line adjustment or a lot merger done when we've already got over 100 acres, doesn't seem to help county finances. Lastly, 1795070E16 is the requirement for in-ground growing only. I spoke with Sheriff DiBasilio last Friday about this. He said he was going to be here to discuss it. I don't know if you're going to have a chance to question him later. Anyway, he felt that with registered farms that are part of the track and trace system, that requirement was not something he needed. I can't speak for him, but if you could ask him. There's many reasons we don't plant in the ground. Major one being not all the soil here is that great. I can't tell you how many farms I've done consult work for where they've planted in the ground wanting to lower their height in hoop houses, ending having up to put containers above those trenches they dug. Drainage issues, soil-borne pathogens, Fusarium, Pythium, rodents. You know, the voles this year took out a large percentage of people's crops. So again, I think that track and trace takes care of any potential of movement of those plants. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Good morning. My name is Randall Bach. I've been a resident of Calaveras County since 1980, and my family's roots go back to Calaveras in the 1800s. What I've been doing for the past few years is researching an alternative to pain control for my wife who had a chronic spinal injury. And in the past few years, with the help of some exceptional people, we have developed a medicinal salve. And this amazing salve has caught the attention of dermatologists, biochemists, and now investors who are interested in promoting and distributing our product. We have brought relief to people with chronic pain and arthritis. Both osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis patients are experiencing their symptoms in remission. We are in the process of forming a company to manufacture and distribute this medicinal salve derived from a special cannabis that I have created over the past few years. In addition to, in order to satisfy demand for this cannabis product, we need to enlist local growers in the West Point areas where I'm from. We hope to have people contract with other growers to do our special hybrid that we've created. My son has applied for a commercial license at the time it was required, and now we seem to be in a state of limbo as far as what our potential is to proceed with this, business. Our goals are to complete our business plan with the help of Calaveras County, and from listening to some of the people speaking today, I'm hoping that we can do this on like a case-by-case basis, because I don't have 100 acres, my son doesn't have 100 acres, and so we're kind of like up in the air at the moment. So we hope to enlist the help of local small growers. Our also plans are to promote our medicinal cannabis from Calaveras County and for people in need of alternative pain control, and we're looking forward to working with Calaveras County to facilitate this exciting new venture. Thank you.
Good morning, Vicki Reinke, District 4, and I'm also on the committee of Calaveras residents against commercial marijuana, so I want to make that comment now. And I've been advocating, obviously, for a ban for the last 2 years, and I have not changed my opinion about that. I've done a lot more studying, a lot more reading, a lot more research. And my answer still comes back to the same thing, and that is a ban in Calaveras County is what needs to happen. And one of the reasons, and I don't usually go on the emotional piece because I feel like there's enough data and enough other things to have a reasonable argument, but I've brought those things forward already and sent emails. The reason that the people in Calaveras County have been against marijuana, and it's a majority, I will tell you, because I talk to a lot of people, and some subjects they don't care about, but this one catches everybody, and it's not a partisan issue either. It's very bipartisan. I have a lot of friends who are what you would call more liberal, and they totally are against it as well. But it has to do with people who live their lives honest, people who live their lives to raise their kids the best they can, people who teach their children not to drink, not to use drugs, to live a good, wholesome life. That's what Calaveras County is about. Those are the people I meet who have been here generations, and I love them to death because they are those kind of people. They're the kind of people I remember growing up with in my family. But anyway, that's the emotional part of it. The people don't want this in their county because they want to continue to have this wholesome life. Marijuana does not bring that to a county. We've seen it. We've had 2 years of it. We've studied it. We've found out that what happens is if you don't do what the marijuana industry does, they come after you with a lawsuit. They stop you from putting your initiatives on a ballot. That's not the people we are. If we put something on a ballot, it's because we're very serious, because that's not our way of doing things. We do things because out of kindness, out of caring for people. But when this was confronted to the people, that was our only alternative, and it was taken away. So it's up to you guys to do what's right for our county. We're talking Calaveras County, we're not talking about the state of California. The other thing that people keep saying is that you're going to take away our medicine. Now, we did get Prop 64. The people of California, not Calaveras, voted to say that adults can use marijuana
Thank you.
and grow 6 plants.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Hi, Board. My name is Ann Hill from Columny Hill. And once again, I'm up here to say please ban. The farmers historically in the United States, they have had to change their products that they grow from time to time. Maybe they'll change from cotton to corn or soybeans to wheat, and barley also is one of the products. And even in California, they've come up with rice. You have to think that the farmers that are growing pot right now, they're saying, oh, you're going to make us move, we got to have a bigger property. They don't have to move. They can grow any other product. They want to be farmers. They should grow a viable product for the community, such as corn, carrots, onions, wheat, whatever even hay. The end users for pot are generally homeless. They can't hold jobs because they don't pass the tests for getting jobs. And they also are drug addicts.
Point of order. Wasn't this the very thing that we weren't supposed to be hearing in these meetings where entire people...
Okay, hold on.
Casted by speakers?
Hold on. I'll allow her to speak. Thank you.
Okay. And on the whole, water and soil are disturbed by the pot growing, the methods and the products that are used. So we have problems with water. You can check with the Eel River as a big source of being really polluted. It's terrible from the pot growers up there. So once again, I just say, please ban. Thank you.
Point of order, Mike, or Gary. We have heard these certain people cast aspersions at a whole group of people, call them criminals, and all kinds of things. I don't think that is appropriate.
Thank you.
Howdy, Board. Aaron Elliott, District 4. Happy New Year's, everybody. I do kind of, I don't know if I'm allowed to, but can I distribute this? It's a document. Point of order, procedurally, on the entrance here, we see a sign designating this as a kindness zone, and I'm hoping that that can be enforced procedurally, and you guys may be able to possibly be kind to pre-existing, compliant, small farmers who operated in good faith, and be kind and perhaps let us continue operating or make fair regulations to where we can transition into a legal marketplace. Appreciate you all. Have a wonderful one.
I'd like to make a point of order.
Yes, George, what is your point of order?
Couple sitting behind me, they've been making disparaging comments. And you, unlike...
Can you come to the microphone, please?
Unlike Michael, who when he was the chair, squashed it.
I haven't heard anything, George, so I'm sorry if I
Well,
haven't heard.
then you need to get your hearing checked. No, I'm
Thank
serious.
you, George. Thank you.
No. And
Thank you.
And these people said to one of the speakers, move to Colorado.
I did hear that.
Huh?
I did hear that.
Well, good. You need to do something about it. You're the chair now. And
George,
District
your point of order is taken.
And
Thank you.
District 1 has had the chairmanship
George,
for
you're out of
3
line.
years.
You're out of line. I'll do something about that. You're out of line. And if we will have respect to everybody in here. Everybody in here, if you're an American citizen, raise your hand, please, right now. We're all American citizens. We all have the right to speak here. And even if you're not, you have the right to have your opinions heard by this board and heard it free and clear without any disparaging remarks from anybody. hold them to yourselves, please. If you want to go outside and talk about it, go outside. But inside these board chambers, we will respect each and everybody in here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, I need like a 5-minute break.
You need a 5-minute break?
Yeah.
We'll take a 5-minute break. Out. We are going to go to lunch and take an hour-and-a-half lunch. It's 11:20 right now. We will be back at 1 o'clock. Right now, everybody please clear the boardroom. We'll resume at 1 o'clock.